something like this and drag it, first of all, they had to make sledges. And they had to make sledges of oak or elm, something very, very tough and resilient. They would also need ropes. Now, they hadn't got the sort of rope or hawser we have today. They'd have to kill hundreds and hundreds of cattle, probably, to flay their hides and bind them into very thick skeins of leather. So there, then, we have a stone weighing 20, 30, perhaps as much as 60 tons on its sledge. And there are people dragging on these great leather ropes. But for every ton a stone weighs, you need perhaps 4 people to drag on the ropes. And so for a stone like this is this 50, 60 ton stone, you need at least 200 people dragging and hauling, and the stone is moving almost imperceptibly. Some of these stones have been re-erected in modern times. In 1934, for example, quite a small stone was put upright. It only weighed 8 tons, and yet it took 12 men, 5 days, using steel hawsers.
At circles like Castle Rigg in Cumbria, the construction was easier, but the layout is often puzzling. Many seem to have been deliberately designed to be non-circular. Penman Moor in Wales is an ellipse. Borough Hill in Roxburghshire is one of many shaped like an egg. Castle Rigg itself is a flattened circle. Such precise patterns are repeated all over the country.
The stone circles of the British Isles are strange, indeed haunting places. Many of them have precise astronomical alignments, which must have required great skill. For others, the geometry is very obscure. We simply don't understand the motives of their designers. But there are clues from this circle in Aberdeenshire that these places were indeed the cathedrals or temples of the ancient world.
Well, most of they're local stones, sort of granite from...
Castle Fraser has been studied by Dr. Aubrey Burl. There's an extraordinary feature in the Aberdeenshire circles, a great stone lying on its side, flanked by 2 uprights.
Well, this stone's a recumbent, and you can see why it's called that, because it's just lying flat between these 2 huge stones. One of the remarkable things about these stones is that they're absolutely horizontal. If we put a spirit level on it, just like that, look where the bubble comes, right in the centre. The people obviously have shifted and balanced these stones because they have bases that are shaped like this. They can be rocked to and fro until they're absolutely level. Then they bang these huge chock stones in underneath.
The presence of the recumbent stone has given Dr. Burl an insight into the minds of the circle builders.
These are places of dread. People who built these circles were people who had very insecure lives. They had no knowledge of what caused a blizzard or a drought or an epidemic. They saw their children dying, they saw their crops failing. Not every time, but when it did happen, they had no means of stopping it because they had no understanding of it. Now, if you're in that sort of situation, you either take an attitude of que sera, sera, what will be, or else you try to do something about it. In other words, you're either fatalistic or else you try to be adventuresome and try to intercede with whatever is causing these disasters.
The recumbent stone told Dr. Burl what the people who built this circle turned to for help in their uncertain world. He found the stone had been placed between the southeastern and southwestern points.
They were concerned with one phenomenon only. That was the moon up in the sky. Because the moon rises towards the southeast, it sets towards the southwest, and there are nearly 50 recumbent stone circles where it's possible to work out exactly in which direction a recumbent stone is directed, and every one of them is directed just to that position where the moon would pass between one flanker and the other flanker, passing over the recumbent stone and then setting. The moon must have been an object, I think, of very special reverence, if that's the right word, to these people. We don't know how they regarded the moon, but we do know, even from today's astronomical observations, that to pass from one flanker to the next, the moon must have been slowly moving across the recumbent for 1, perhaps 2 hours. And it must have been at that time that the people perform their ceremonies. But there's rather more than that. The moon has a very peculiar motion in the sky, and once about every 19 years, the moon is very, very low on the southern horizon, very low indeed. And at that time, instead of being high up, it would have appeared almost to roll along the top of the recumbent stone, a magical moment for the people.
Although there are some clues to ceremonies enacted on nights of the full moon, the ashes of fires, even the pitiful remains of many different children, the stones keep their eerie secrets.
When we look at circles like these, at least I am always very much aware of a mystery surrounding them, because we can collect so many facts about them, we can make so many deductions about them, and yet in the end, when we stand in a ring like this on a beautiful moonlit night, I am more aware of mysteries than of answers. I can see shadows, but what I can't see, however hard I try, are the people who built them. I know something about their lives. I know their lives were short. I know their children suffered. I can understand why they put up these stones. But what actually went on inside the rings, the actual beliefs of the people, these are matters which escape me, and I suspect will always escape us. You know, it's like reaching out into the darkness. You can go so far, but in the end, you can never touch them. You're always reaching for a shadow.
Azimuth is next on Discovery, showing how the Hawaiian Islands were formed and what awaits them in a few thousand years from now.